I used to wake up already behind. Not because I woke up late, because the second my eyes opened, my phone was already in my hand. Notifications first, my own thoughts second. Before I'd even sat up, I was reacting to other people's decisions about my day. Sound familiar? You reach for your phone before your feet touch the floor. You check messages you can't do anything about yet. You scroll for 10 minutes that turn into 30, and by the time you're finally out of bed, you already feel like you're catching up, not starting your day, chasing it. Here's what's actually happening. It's not a time management problem. It's a launch pad problem. Think about a rocket. Before it ever leaves the ground, someone runs through a sequence. Fuel check, systems check, direction locked in. Nothing about that sequence is rushed, because the first few minutes determine whether the whole flight goes where it's supposed to. Your morning is that sequence, and most people skip it completely. They just ignite. Whatever hits their brain first, a text, a headline, someone else's opinion, becomes the direction of their whole day. No wonder it feels chaotic by 10 a.m. You never actually chose where you were going, and it's not really your fault. Nobody taught you this. You were taught how to set an alarm. Nobody taught you what to do in the minutes after it goes off. So you default to the easiest thing within reach, which is almost always a screen. That screen doesn't care about your day. It only cares about your attention. And attention given away in the first 5 minutes doesn't come back later so you can spend it properly. It's just gone, spent on someone else's agenda before you've even brushed your teeth. This is why just wake up earlier never actually fixes anything for most people. Waking up an hour earlier and immediately reaching for your phone doesn't create an extra hour of control. It just creates an extra hour of reacting. More time was never the missing ingredient. Order is. So let's build you a real launch sequence. Not a 2-hour routine with cold plunges and 10 habits stacked on top of each other. Something you can actually do. Something built around one idea. Control the first hour and you control the tone of everything after it. Step 1. The first 5 minutes. No input. This is the part everyone skips. Before you consume anything, no phone, no news, no messages, you give your brain 5 minutes of silence. Not meditation necessarily, just quiet. Why does this matter? Because your mind right after waking is like wet cement. Whatever gets pressed into it first sets the shape for hours. If the first thing you press into it is someone else's urgency, that urgency becomes yours. 5 minutes of nothing costs you almost no time, but it protects the one resource you can't get back once it's gone. Your attention, before anyone else has claimed it. You can lie there, you can sit up, you can look out a window. It doesn't matter what you do with the 5 minutes as much as what you don't do. You don't consume. You don't compare. You don't let someone else's headline become your first thought. That's it. That's the entire step. And most people find it strangely hard because reaching for the phone has become less of a choice and more of a reflex, which is exactly why it's worth interrupting. Step 2. Move before you think. Not a workout, just movement. Stretch. Walk to the kitchen slowly. Open a window. Your body runs on something like a phone battery. It needs a small charge before it can perform. Sitting straight from a bed to a screen is like trying to run an app at 2% power. It technically works, but everything lags. A few minutes of movement isn't about fitness here. It's about waking the system up on your terms at your pace before the day starts demanding things from you. Step 3. Decide the one thing. Before you open your inbox, before you check what's urgent, write down or say out loud one thing that would make today feel like a win. Just one. Not a to-do list. Not 10 priorities pretending to be equal. One. Here's why this works. Most days feel like a leaking bucket. Energy pours out through 100 small demands, replies, notifications, other people's fires, and by evening the bucket's empty. But you can't point to where the water went. Naming one thing first plugs the biggest hole before the leaking even starts. You're not trying to do more. You're trying to make sure the right thing survives the day. Ask yourself, if today got completely derailed by 2 p.m., meetings ran long, something broke, someone needed you, what's the one thing you'd still be glad you did? That's your answer. Write it somewhere you'll actually see it, not buried in an app with 40 other tasks competing for the same slot, one line in plain view. You're not planning your whole day. You're just deciding in advance what counts as a win so the day can't quietly talk you out of it later. Step 4. Face the hardest thing first. For 10 minutes, not finish it. Just start it. Whatever you're avoiding, the report, the call, the workout, the conversation. Give it 10 minutes while your discipline is freshest. Discipline is highest the moment you wake up and drops as the day wears on, decision by decision. That's why the thing you dread always ends up tomorrow. Tomorrow's willpower hasn't been drained yet either, so it happens to tomorrow, forever. 10 minutes, first thing, breaks that cycle. You're not asking for motivation, you're just asking for a start, and starts are almost always the hardest part. Step 5. Protect the first hour from other people's agendas. This one's uncomfortable to hear. Every message, every notification, every quick question is someone else's priority trying to become yours. That's not a criticism of them. It's just how communication works. But if you let those requests in during the first hour, you spend your best energy running someone else's day before you've run your own. Delay it. Not forever. Just until your one thing and your hardest thing have had their 10 minutes each. A locked door for 60 minutes protects everything you build for the next 12 hours. You're allowed to be unavailable for 60 minutes. Nobody's day falls apart because you replied at 8 a.m. instead of 7. But your day quietly falls apart, piece by piece, every time you answer first and plan second. Think of it like water in your hands. The tighter you grip trying to respond to everything at once, the faster it all slips through your fingers. Cup your hands loosely around fewer things, and you actually hold on to more. Step 6. Close the loop before you open new ones. Before you check anything new, email, messages, social feeds, glance at what's already sitting open from yesterday. One unfinished conversation, one half-done task, one tab you never closed. Pick one, close it. Why? Because unfinished things sit in your head, like background apps, quietly draining the charge you just worked to build in steps 1 through 4. You don't need to finish everything old before starting something new. You just need to close one loop so you're not opening today's tabs on top of yesterday's mess. Now here's the part people miss. This isn't really about mornings. It's about who's driving. When your day starts with reaction, phone first, other people's urgency first, you spend all day driving from the passenger seat. Someone else always seems to be steering, and you're just responding to wherever they take you. When your day starts with these 5 small, deliberate steps, something shifts. You're not doing more. You're just going first. And going first, even for 60 minutes, changes who's actually in control of the other 15 hours. Think of your energy like a savings jar, not a spigot that runs all day for free. Every deliberate choice you make in that first hour is a deposit. Every reactive scroll, every just checking that turns into 20 minutes is a withdrawal, usually before the jars even had a chance to fill. People who feel behind aren't lazy. They're not less capable. They're just running a deficit before 8 a.m. and wondering why 6 p.m. feels impossible. You don't need a perfect morning. You need a protected one. 5 minutes of silence instead of scrolling. A few minutes of movement instead of stillness. One clear priority instead of 10 scattered ones. 10 minutes on the hard thing instead of another day of avoiding it. And an hour where your attention belongs to you before it belongs to anyone else. None of this requires more time. It requires a different order. The same 60 minutes you already have, just spent choosing instead of reacting. And here's the identity shift underneath all of it. People who feel behind think the fix is speed. Move faster, answer quicker, do more before 9 a.m. But speed in the wrong direction just gets you lost faster. The fix was never speed. It was sequence, fuel check, direction locked in, then ignition. You're not someone who's always playing catch-up. You're someone who hasn't run the sequence yet. That's a completely different problem, and it's one you can fix starting tomorrow morning, before your phone even leaves the nightstand. You don't have to run all 6 steps perfectly on day 1. Start with 1. The 5 minutes of silence, or the 10 minutes on the hard thing. Add the next step once the first one feels automatic. Small in order is still order. A staircase only works because each step holds its place. You don't need all of them built at once. You just need to stop skipping the first one because the day doesn't get away from you at 3 p.m. It gets away from you in the first 5 minutes when you hand the wheel to someone else without even noticing. Take those 5 minutes back and something quieter starts to shift underneath the routine itself. You stop describing yourself as someone who's always running late, always catching up, always one step behind everyone else. You start describing yourself as someone who goes first, not louder, not busier, just first. That's the whole difference between a morning that happens to you and a morning you actually run. You were never behind. You were just letting someone else set the pace before you'd had the chance to set your own.